So this is for Christians. If you are not a Christian, you can keep watching. That's cool. Nothing against unbelievers at all. As Christians, we have orders, we have mandates, we have commands, we have scripture in the Bible that tells us to be generous and to help those that are less fortunate, and to tithe, and all these things. You are an unbeliever and you are generous and you are helping those less fortunate. That isn't to undermine or demean anything that you are doing at all. I was running the other day and I was listening to worship music, and it made me think back to a Christmas that I had several years ago when I was the single mom to our 6 boys, and I was about a year post a divorce and working full time and doing the best that I can. I had, prior to getting that divorce, I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mama, so I had no education, I had no job experience, I had nothing that was gonna move me up the ladder very fast. So that Christmas, I was on food stamps. I couldn't afford groceries for all 6 of my boys, but I could afford my rent, I could afford my utilities, I could pay for everything my boys needed. And Christmas rolled around, okay? Christmas to me is a luxury. It is not a need, it is a want. I wasn't gonna be able to buy them Christmas presents that year. There's no way. I can barely even pay my bills. And I lived in a small town, so people heard about, me and my 6 boys, and people had a heart for my boys and I. Because Christmas is not a need, it's a luxury, I was never going to ask for help, because I just don't think that asking for help for a luxury is the best thing to do with people's resources, I guess. And not to mention, I had given my kids and were giving my kids so many different experiences and memories, and just so many different adventures that were free, that there's no presents that could have amounted to that. So all that to say, regardless, people knew my situation and my story, nothing about Christmas, but someone had shared my name with someone that I didn't know. I think at a dentist's office in a neighboring town, and they just shared, I guess, my story of the divorce and my 6 boys and whatnot. Well, that whole dentist office that had never met me, I don't know any of them, all of them bought my children presents. They got so many presents that year. And so I just remember that thinking, wow, why do strangers want to love on people so much? Looking back on that just one incident, and there's many other incidences during that season of my life where believers stepped in and walked with me, just really highlighted to me that there were still people that were the hands and feet of Jesus in today's world, in such a selfish, materialistic, fast-paced, superficial, fake world, that there were still people out there that were generous with whatever they had, whatever they could be generous with. I live a very different life now, and this is in no way, shape, or form a way to boast about where I am, because I am not anywhere that I have put myself. I am where I am by the grace of God. Yeah, it's about trusting God in everything that you have. I'm in a different arena of life, and financially I do have the ability to serve people, and what a blessing that is. And on top of tithing, God does call us to give, and to give generously. And what that means, if that $2,000 is going to bless them more than it's going to bless you, then you should give it. Thinking about, like, okay, well, I could use that $1,000. You could. Or is it just sitting in there in your bank account because you might need it sometime? But what about all the people that need it right now? So this is a challenge. This is a challenge to be faithful in your giving, and to honor God and honor His people. Be generous with whatever resource you have to be generous with. If you are living in poverty and all you have is your time, or all you have is your prayer, then do an outpouring of that. God never called you to hoard your money. It's not your money to begin with. That there was a reason that he didn't want the Israelites to hoard food and to save up all of this stuff while they were in the wilderness. And it was because he was going to provide it the next day, and he always does. He always does. There's not been one time in my life where he has not provided it. And maybe it came in the form of someone else giving me money, or the government giving me food stamps, or someone providing Christmas presents for my children. Or maybe it came with a raise, but it still came because God's faithful, and he always is. And so look at your finances as something that is not yours. I am so thankful for my husband. Not only does he support this mindset that I have, he also has the same mindset. And so when we see people that are less fortunate, when we hear of needs, and we look at the luxury that we live in, we don't need more money in our savings account. Do we need it to just sit there? We can't take it with us. It's not ours to begin with. God told us to divvy up his money that he entrusted to us to people that need it. I am so grateful that I got to feel the presence of God and the hands and feet of Jesus when people were serving me with what they had to give, whether it was their finances, their time, or their prayer. I'm so thankful that the hands and feet of Jesus came to me when I needed it. And so now I'm so thankful. I'm even more thankful. I'm more thankful on this end that I get to go and give, and I get to give, and I get to give. When we ask ourselves, who gave my husband the personality that he has to be able to secure a job? Who made him able-bodied that can walk and talk and do all these things? God did. Who gave him the personality and the ability to sell things? God did. Whose paycheck is this? It is God's. And it is never ours. It was never meant to be ours. We are just safekeeping it only for the purpose of then not only caring for ourselves, because God meets our needs with his money through my husband's paycheck, but also to meet the needs of other people around us who don't have the resources financially. I just challenge believers that are financially in a place to be able to give generously, to go meet the needs of God's people.